Thank you.
Okay, now we have a public hearing on the Carl proposal to close or to vacate streets including Kohler Avenue between University Avenue and Church Street, Busey Avenue between University Avenue and Church Street, and Park Street between Lincoln Avenue and Kohler Avenue. Is there anyone who would like to?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself from sitting at the council table during this because I have a potential conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to comment on the proposal? Would you like to come up and state your name and your address and take no more than 5 minutes, please?
And I did sign up for I guess it might have been the sheet for the city council meeting, so. And there were a couple of handouts. If we could just pass those out, pass them along, I appreciate it. My name is Mike Doyle. I live at 411 West Park in Urbana. I'm a board member of United Citizens and Neighbors, UCAN, which represents the residents of the Crystal Lake Park neighborhood. Last week, UCAN's Board of Directors approved the following resolution, which I've been asked to read since UCAN President Bob Leach is out of town on business. UCAN believes that any decision on street closings within the MIC should be made as part of the larger neighborhood planning process initiated by Mayor Prussing and being undertaken by the City of Urbana. Further, the city should resist pressure from Carl to take a piecemeal approach to approving their expansion plans. Rather, any decisions concerning street closing should be comprehensive and address the serious concerns raised in neighborhood meetings by residents. These concerns include but are not limited to issues such as the expansion of the MIC north of Church Street, protection of single-family housing, traffic patterns, parking, and pollution. And that's the official position of the UCAN Board of Directors. But I will be remiss, and I have a few comments that I'd like to add beyond that. I'd be remiss also to point out that the vast majority of UCAN members were opposed to closing the streets that Carl's requesting to be closed. But the board felt that it would be more prudent for any official decision for or against that be taken when there's a full sense of plan for the neighborhood. The unanimous decisions to support this resolution was based on our past experience with Carl's development plans. In that regard, we believe it would be short-sighted for the city to move forward with any decision on street closings without resolving other critical issues that have been raised in neighborhood meetings the past 5 months. A number of those concerns are on the blue handout that were passed out. They're from 3 neighborhood meetings over the last few months. We would like to remind the City Council that Carl used the same approach in 1993 when they asked to close Park Street and insisted it was the only way they could move ahead with building their outpatient surgery center. Under pressure from Carl, which insisted there was no other alternative, the City Council voted to close Park Street without even as much as a public hearing. Within 2 years, Carl did build their outpatient surgery center, but did so in Southwest Champaign. We urge the City Council not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Despite what Carl might say, there are always alternatives. 4 months ago, at the first neighborhood meeting in which Carl presented their plans for future development, they presented a proposal that called for tearing down dozens of homes to make way for surface parking. At that time, residents suggested a variety of alternatives, which Carl rejected, saying they could not move forward with their expansion plans unless they had the surface parking to accommodate parking losses during the construction period. However, when it became clear that Carl would have a hard time pushing through its preferred plan, they quickly abandoned that plan and developed an alternative. We urge this City Council not to cave into Carl's all-too-frequent threats. We understand that Carl wants to get what they want, but we urge this City Council to take a measured and thoughtful approach to consider alternative plans that seek to address the wide range of issues that surround the growth and development of a large medical institution located in a residential neighborhood. These are not impossible issues to resolve, but they do require a commitment to a process that is designed to develop the best possible plan for the various community interests that will be affected. It requires listening to and understanding each of the competing interests. It requires dialogue and compromise. We urge this Council to reject the approach used in 1993 of pushing through what Carl wants while ignoring the concerns of residents affected by their plans. That approach not only fueled mistrust and built up resentment, but poisoned the dialogue around Carl expansion issues that was not easily overcome. Rather, we urge you to embrace the model used in 1995 that resulted in a win-win approach in which UCAN, Carl, and the city came together and agreed on a plan that allowed for thoughtful planned growth in our neighborhood for the past 12 years. We urge the City Council to reject calls for an immediate approval of far-reaching street closings. Instead, we hope you will consider these requests as part of a larger development plan for our neighborhood that incorporates the interests and concerns of all affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to, or would you like to come forward? The lady in the back was first, I believe. You in the green.
Are we not supposed to be on the yellow sheet of paper?
If you filled one out, the clerk told me that we didn't have people filling it out for the hearing. But if you'd like to fill one out, please do so. Okay, well then,
Mayor,
yes, go
I
ahead.
think there's the miscommunication, Mayor, is the fact that this is the public hearing and that people were confused as the public hearing and what's on the agenda as the discussion item.
Right, we
And
have
so
public participation, right.
If you want to do the public hearing, which is what we're doing right now, and that's what you assumed you filled out, then I would guess that that's what you
Sure,
should do.
come on up. And just state your name and your address, and please take no more than 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Dee Miles. I live at 909 North Busey and have so for 29 years. I come tonight representing myself, but I am a member of UCAN as well. Personally, I'm not terribly opposed to the vacating of the streets we're talking about tonight. I used the Loop Road as soon as it became available to avert traffic at the emergency entrance, mainly just out of consideration for incoming emergency vehicles. I have avoided Busey because of all the semis unloading for Carl there. So street vacations will not impede my personal movement much. The only time I use Kohler is to go to downtown Urbana, which is rare, because we have little to go down there for, now even less as Strawberry Fields has closed their sit-down dining. Let me be clear, however, I am not opposed to vacating these streets if and only if Carl has state approval to expand before the streets are vacated. I am concerned, though, about the impact of traffic on the Loop Road, since, as I have said, I use it to get out of the neighborhood. I wasn't that happy with the traffic study that was done, especially as it was done when McCullough was closed east of Kohler. And I can't understand why they didn't throw 3,000 patients' zip codes into this study as well. For the people who did the study to say that patients live in the same zip codes as employees is not understandable. I believe patients come from far and wide to this hospital, and even more will come from more disparate corners as our facilities expand. I believe also that this study does not include, quote, complete streets, unquote. So it therefore does not appear to be a complete study for me to consider. The emergency entrance sign on University and Church is curious to me. It didn't make a lot of sense to me when it was first installed, and it makes even less now if they're going to ask for the closure of Kohler. So I don't know how you would access the emergency entrance from University and Lincoln with the Church Street entrance emergency sign. On to other matters concerning potential Carl expansion. I'm concerned about parking problems in the neighborhood. I've personally interviewed people parking outside my front door. They typically say it's too long to wait on a shuttle at the fairgrounds. This needs to be rectified. I also wonder how successful Carl's trip reduction efforts were in 1997 and what their future trip study will show. Next, I'm wondering what the plan is for Carl's proposed cooling for the new addition. I remember when the Forum was built, I was shocked to see the chillers there facing directly into our neighborhood, northwest into our neighborhood, a neighborhood. The noise roared into our quiet neighborhood and as well pollutes the ears of anyone staying at the guest house. Why weren't the chillers at least pointed into the park, where though people walk through there, at least no one lives there? So I am concerned about the location and potential a noise pollution of any cooling chillers that will be used for the new proposed addition. Other noise pollution as well will be from additional helicopters. What kind will these be? Will they be only for patients? What will their traffic patterns be? And will they also conduct training at 6 a.m. on Sunday mornings, as the previous one did? Regarding neighborhood concerns, I wonder whatever happened to all the talk about raising houses from church to hill to build the parking lots. This talk was seemingly strangled for the time being. In regard to that, I am against the acquisition of any more homes by Carl north of Church Street. I do see on a JJR map that Carl is listing as near-term expansion in green color, even some property that is 15 to 20 years out on the 96 agreement. If Carl is planning to buy all the property on Orchard Street, this will completely cut off the northwest neighborhood from the park. I ask the city to please review the 96 development agreement and the new Carl expansion plan. I call your attention to page 14 of Carl's street vacation request. Also, it's my understanding there will be no further community care at this location, that it's all been shipped out to the hinterlands in southwest Champaign and to southeast Urbana, where it might actually be somewhat useful. What about those northwest of the Carl Hospital? I see here I have a note that I should have mentioned earlier about the stormwater management plan. Is Carl to present one before or after possible expansion? The wording in a letter to UCAM to me seemed contradictory on that point, and I need clarification. There's really so much to consider. I hope the city takes its time and care in coordinating any new developments by Carl, the parks, and the city. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. I think what I'll do is have the people who wanted to speak before the item come to the hearing, and then the rest of you who want to speak at the time will will speak at the committee of the whole. Phil Hoggett.
Good evening. I'm Philip Hoggett and live at 1305 East McHenry in Urbana, and with my wife Polly have resided there for almost 40 years. We are both lifelong residents of this area. I grew up in Ward 1 and she in Ward 5. I'm here this evening in support of the street closure. My remarks are of my own accord and further have not been asked by Carl to speak, nor am I in their employment. In the fall of last year, I retired after 46 years in banking, having served as president of an Urbana financial institution and concluding my career in institutions in Mattoon and then in Champaign. After retirement, I was interviewed and accepted by the Carl Foundation Hospital Auxiliary, and am presently one of about 200 other supermen and women who volunteer. I am at the hospital approximately 3 days per week, or about 60 to 70 hours per month. In the hospital, I have been assigned by my request in 2 different areas. First, giving assistance along with many others in helping more than 19,000 patients who are discharged annually. And secondly, in the surgical waiting room on floor number 3, and this is where I come in contact with my other volunteers, with not only patients, but their families, friends, pastors, priests, and other clergy. Many patients up there, of course, for very serious surgeries. It is my fortune to also become in contact with some of the finest surgeons and physicians in the land, as well as outstanding nurses, support staff administrators, custodians, electricians, security personnel, engineering staff, and yes, even helicopter pilots, to name a few. Please be reminded that on any weekday between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., 2,500 people enter the hospital main lobby doors from all over the Midwest and from all economic statuses, babies to seniors, in which Carl Foundation serves daily. May I also add that Carl Hospital is currently performing about 2,000 surgeries per year. It is the mission of the volunteers and the goal of everyone to make everyone as comfortable as possible, serving as a liaison between the medical staff and families and friends in the waiting room. These patients and their families are having a tremendous benefit to the economic well-being of Urbana. I, from time to time, are asked about hotels, motels, restaurants, service stations, and just last Tuesday, someone asked me where they could, in Urbana, buy 2 tires, as they were going to be having someone in the hospital for an extended period of time. As a townie, I'm of course truly pleased to see this wonderful financial impact this has for our city of Urbana. Now Cower Foundation would like to go west with the needed street closure, then providing 240,000 square feet, 8 floors and 120 beds, many of which will be in private rooms. Mentioning a moment ago the financial impact for our city, imagine how many new jobs are in the works, including, yes, even more volunteers. In closing, and on a personal note, the Carl Foundation Hospital just 8 years ago this month gave me a wonderful gift of life. As I was a patient for 28 days, 17 of which were in the intensive care unit where I was critically ill. Upon discharge, I was told by family, friends, and coworkers, "You are one lucky guy." My answer, "You're right on." Truly, it was a lot of prayers lifted up and outstanding medical care at Carl Foundation Hospital. After my many surgeries, procedures, and therapy, here I am. As a team member, it is an honor to return my small gift to the Carl Foundation Hospital and work alongside my fellow volunteers, where we have 15 areas in which we can be of service on their campus. I now ask all of you to sincerely consider a vote in favor of this street closure so that Carl Foundation Hospital can move forward in its mission of helping patients like myself in providing the highest level of health care to everyone. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Barbara Linder, sorry. Your name and address, please.
I'm Barbara Linder. I live at 409 West Illinois Street in Urbana. I'm an employee of Urbana Schools, where I worked with the Urbana Schools mentoring program. I am not directly impacted by the street closures, but I am directly impacted by Carl Foundation Hospital in a way that is not general public knowledge, and that's just what I wanted to share in a sort of good citizen character reference for Carl as a good corporate citizen in our community, not just as a business and not just even as a healthcare institution, which, like our previous speaker, I have greatly benefited and I'm grateful for my life to them. But I want to speak about their corporate character, which I think is very important as a community, that we have corporations that not only benefit us economically, but benefit the people of our community who are not always the ones with the most resources. And those are the students that we serve in Urbana Schools through the mentoring program. What you may not know is that in the past years, I have worked with Carl to try to encourage their support of mentoring. This past year with Lynn Barnes, who recruits herself, at her initiative, Carl Foundation Hospital developed an internship program specifically for students in our mentoring program. These are high school students that don't generally have someone to give them a leg up. Carl Foundation Hospital developed actually a paid internship program for these students, provided them with workplace mentors for 6 weeks over the course of the summer. The impact on the 3 students that were able to participate in this first session of this internship program cannot be understated. There is a student, one of the girls who participated, found little in the high school that really connected with her. She had a hard time getting herself to high school, a very bright girl. She was at Carl every morning at 8 o'clock for 6 weeks for her internship. It will have a lifelong impact on her as she's made the connection not just to a job at the mall, but to a professional job each of the kids that participated in the internship had that kind of experience. With Lynn's leadership and the mentors that did this through the hospital, we're actually hoping to replicate this, and Carl will become corporate leaders in our community to seeing many more of our high school students who, as I said, don't generally have a parent or someone with connections to get them into the kinds of jobs that are beyond Arby's or the mall, but can get them into a professional work experience. So I'm just, as I said, encouraged that the leaders of Carl Foundation Hospital took the initiative to pilot this program. I'm encouraged that they want to serve the youth of our community as well as to expand and make a corporate profit. It speaks well to their desire to be good citizens of Urbana. I would like the council to just know this aspect of their corporate character and take it into account as you're making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Howard Wakeland.
Howard Wakeland, 1811A, Amber, Urbana, Illinois. And we own properties that are across the street from this development to the west and to the south. And we'd like to be on record as favoring what Carl has proposed. We believe that it's difficult to develop things in that part of the city, and we've been there for some time, and we would welcome further development by Carl. It's a leading Midwestern institution, and we should help it and try to keep it in Urbana as much as possible. We have been building on the west side of Urbana, and believe me, it's more difficult to stay in the city to try to do some kind of construction than it is to go out on the border around the edge of the city and buy some virgin territory where there's not foundation, where there's not pipes, and where there's not sewers, and everything is new. And we live in the Stone Creek area, and I marvel how quickly they can put in a foundation and how quickly they can put up an apartment building, and all of this is because they have virgin territory and they don't have to worry about laws or concerns that deal with the inner city. And so we are very favorable to their situation and would encourage the council to approve their request. I don't really have anything else to add except that we are favorable to the proposal.
Thank you very much. Matthew Gibb.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Dr. Matthew Gibb. I live at 2212 Edgewater Place in Champaign. I come before you tonight as a practicing cardiologist. I am employed by Carl Clinic Association, and I'm an interventional cardiologist by specialty. I've been practicing medicine for 24 years, and 14 of those have been with Carl Clinic Association. And I'd like to speak briefly about our need for a new cardiovascular facility from the medical perspective. Our cardiovascular team is one of the best that I've had the occasion to work with. Our physicians, nurses, technicians, and support staff are completely dedicated to providing comprehensive state-of-the-art cardiovascular care to members of this community and our surrounding region. However, dedicated expert physicians and staff are only one part of delivering outstanding care. At Carl, we are in need of a new facility which will accommodate the increasing demand for local cardiovascular care and also support the addition of new diagnostic and therapeutic technology well into the future. You have heard it before, but I'd like to comment on a few cardiovascular facts. Advances in medication, procedures, and preventative care have resulted in a decline in mortality for heart disease over the last 20 years. However, an aging population, particularly in our area, is leading to an ever-increasing number of patients who will need advanced cardiovascular care, and this is currently stretching our resources to the limit. Here in East Central Illinois, counties with very high rates of cardiovascular disease surround us. For example, data from the Illinois Department of Public Health revealed that Ford, Iroquois, Vermilion, Edgar, Douglas, and Coles counties have some of the highest rates of death from cardiovascular disease and stroke in the state of Illinois. Heart and vascular disease is clearly one of the top issues in East Central Illinois, and it affects people of every age, sex, and income level. At Carle Foundation Hospital, every day we are treating more and more people with cardiovascular disease. When I first started at Carle, we had 2 cardiac catheterization laboratories, and today we have 7, including some completely dedicated to rhythm management and peripheral vascular care. In the proposed facility, there will be 8 catheterization laboratories and possible expansion to 10. As an aside, catheterization labs are used to diagnose many types of heart disease and provide treatment such as stents and defibrillators. We've also recently added 4 new cardiovascular surgical suites to meet the need for our population. The proposed location for our new heart center is ideal for meeting my patients' needs. Building this institute across Kohler Avenue and adjacent to the North Tower building allows the catheterization labs to be on the same level as our surgical operating suites. This proximity as a practicing cardiologist is crucial to good patient care, given there are many occasions where we have critically ill patients needing to go directly from the catheterization suite to the operating room. This location is also in close proximity to the emergency department. Rapid response time is critical to any heart attack patient's survival and successful outcome. Studies have shown that patients who receive care quickly have better outcomes than those who have delayed treatment. Saving just a few minutes in transport for a heart attack patient can lead to an extremely positive benefit for them overall. I understand that it has been suggested to create a tunnel within the design of the building, which would allow the street to remain open to through traffic. And as an interventional cardiologist, I can tell you that I think this would be a problem. First of all, it would lead to what I would perceive as vibration and noise by traffic, particularly cars and trucks on the street, that would pass directly under the catheterization suites. As I said before, those cath suites are best located adjacent to the current second floor operating rooms. And at best, this would be somewhat of a distraction. At worst, it might result in suboptimal patient care. I'm not a structural engineer, but I perceive it would be difficult to design out all of the noise of a first-level street. Putting myself in the shoes of a patient, I'm sure I would want my physician to have a minimum possible outside distraction while I was having an invasive cardiac procedure. Additionally, continuing to mix local street traffic with an increased flow of outpatient pedestrian activity, as well as the increased ambulance activity to our emergency room, makes for a level of vehicle congestion directly adjacent to the facility, which I perceive could have negative public safety implications. By closing Kohler Avenue and building the Heart and Vascular Institute adjacent to the existing hospital, we can meet the needs of today's patients locally while preparing for the needs of the community in the future. In my opinion, this goes beyond just Urbana. It impacts the health and well-being of our surrounding region. The Carle Heart Center treats patients not only from Urbana and Champaign, but also the entire East Central Illinois region, and sometimes beyond. Through construction of the new comprehensive Heart and Vascular Institute, our goal is to provide easily accessible, local, state-of-the-art cardiovascular care to patients in the Carle service area for years to come. I speak in support of the motion to close the streets, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you very much. Finally, Napoleon Knight.
Thank you. My name is Napoleon Knight. I live at 905 Galen Drive in Champaign, Illinois. I'm a practicing emergency physician at Carle Foundation Hospital. I've been practicing there now for 17 years, and also serve in the role as Vice President of Medical Affairs at Carle Foundation Hospital and oversee our clinical effectiveness as well. I speak in support of the street closure as well, and I'd like to speak from my perspective as someone who cares for patients in the emergency department. I still practice medicine because it's fun, it's challenging, and I enjoy it. In the emergency department, we're faced oftentimes with people who are the sickest of the sick, people who are infirm, people who have broken legs, broken ankles, and other severe injuries. And the perspective that I have is trying to watch some of these individuals both come into the emergency department across very busy Kohler Avenue and from traffic that comes off University Avenue, speeding up Kohler Avenue in front of the very busy emergency department where we have multiple emergency vehicles that are pulling out, backing in, turning around, and on rare occasions, or actually frequent occasions sometimes, where we have emergency response vehicles, police vehicles that are pulling up all at the same time as well. I think it's a safety measure in my view, and I think that we've been lucky so far. Just today when I was walking across Kohler Avenue, a car went directly through the stop sign on Church Street, sped down to University Avenue, barely missing an older woman who was crossing the street. There'll be many other people who will be speaking tonight about the technical advances, such as Dr. Gibb just did, from the building itself, but I'd also like you to consider that there is a lot of foot traffic that comes in to the into the emergency department across those busy streets, and I think that the closure would also benefit and make the safety of our patients, visitors, and coworkers a lot better as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, anyone who filled out one of these yellow forms and said you want to address the committee at the time the agenda is presented, I've given those to Heather Stevenson. So is there anyone else who hasn't filled out a form who wants to testify at the hearing? Would you come forward and state your name and address, please, and keep your remarks to 5 minutes? Thanks.
I'm Catherine Connor. I live at 302 North Orchard in Urbana. I lived for 17 years at 1012 North Busey in Urbana, and it's looking as if we will go back to that house next August. So that I am a neighborhood person. I'm also an Urbana person from birth. When my mother sat on this council, little ancient history, the Pennsylvania Avenue was the far reaches of the town. And I mention that because I'd like you to think in terms of the town not being static as it is, but possibly also growing to the north. Look at the fact that we have Cunningham Avenue, we have Broadway, we have Kohler, and we have Lincoln. And that's it. That's it. If the town grows north and Lincoln becomes overcrowded, we will no longer have Kohler, which does take some of that traffic now, to relieve that, and I don't know where we're going to put the rest of the traffic. So I'd like you to think in those terms when you think about street closures. I do not oppose the expansion of Carl. I do oppose the closing of Kohler. I do on the basis of the future of the town. I do on the basis of bike traffic. When I lived on North Busey, I rode my bike. Riding my bike down Lincoln Avenue is not something I would want to do. If Kohler is closed, it means having to go clear over to Broadway to get a decent access to the university. That's a long way. We think about energy savings. We think about using cars less and less. I would like to support the comments made by Mr. Doyle. I think they were very astute. No one has mentioned the fact that Kohler is currently a bus route, and that too would cause a problem, I think. Again, I don't oppose Carl expansion. I do believe, however, that their architects can design a building that can serve their needs and the needs of the citizens in the town. I do believe that they can continue to give excellent cardiac care and be a good community corporate citizen without closing Kohler Street. So I oppose Kohler. I do not oppose closing. I do not oppose closing of the other streets they request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment at this time? Would you come forward and state your name and address and keep it to 5 minutes, please? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Sam Banks. My home address is 5 Genevieve Court in Champaign. My work address for the past 25 years is 1301 North Cunningham Avenue in Urbana at Cunningham Children's Home. And I appreciate the opportunity to share and speak in support of the Carl Hospital request. And I speak in support of it, I think, more from the vantage point and perspective of the hospital's work and mission for the greater good. As an organization that also, working at Cunningham Children's Home, an organization that also seeks to serve the greater good, I understand the challenges that are faced in trying to carry out service and mission in a complex environment and with complex issues. While the complexities and challenges of building and growing can be many, I would encourage the council to have the vision and judgment to support the hospital's effort because of what I've observed over the years, and I believe the community at large has observed, has been Carl Hospital's proven excellence in the community, and what it has proven and what it has delivered to the community over the years. I believe that the hospital has proven that its presence and work in the community has advanced the state of health for citizens at all levels of the community, and the hospital has helped with respect to the work at Cunningham Children's Home and the children we serve as one example of that. We've experienced it with the support that the hospital has given in developing the new clinic building and facilities at Cunningham Children's Home. This is an example of its proven work in that area, and has provided financial support in helping to get that work completed for children in our care, as well as the work that the hospital has done over the years at its site for the young people that we have served. It's also proven that its work and presence has advanced the workforce opportunities and economic progress for citizens throughout the community, and proven that it is a community service provider interested in doing more than the status quo. And if you look at what the hospital has done today and what it is today, you know it's committed to service at the highest level of care for people who come to be taken care of. As the executive director at Cunningham, I represent an organization in the community that also works for the greater good. And in our case, as many of you know, it is for the good of children and youth who, for the most part, have no place else to turn to live, and no place else to turn to learn, and in most cases, no place else to turn to emotionally heal from the scars of their life circumstances. Recently, if you've noticed some of the changes just north of the corner of Cunningham and Country Club Road to the west, we've had the opportunity to plan and construct some new buildings that will allow us to serve the youth in our care and the community at large in a fashion that optimally meets today's and future needs. I want to share how important it was to have the support of the city staff and the support of council members as well to develop those plans and to work to serve the greater good for the children and the youth who need the care. I want to thank you for that, and thank you for the visionary work and planning that was done with us in that effort. I can't tell you how difficult and frustrating it would have been to have barriers and obstacles in the way of trying to get that done. And in much the same way, and as a result of that work together, we've had many comments, positive comments about the work, the buildings, and what they're used for in the community, positive comments from members of the community. I look forward to continuing that work and effort with more facilities to help in that regard. I think the situation that Carl has asked for your cooperation with and approval of the street closures is very similar. Asking for the opportunity to build and to grow in a manner that will give the hospital the chance to provide for patients and the loved ones connected with those patients an optimal environment for care and treatment is important. The opportunity to give the healthcare professionals who deliver services and treatment an optimal setting to carry out and manage the healing process is an important one. And I believe the opportunity to grow and change as the needs for those who need the ever-changing and specified and specialized medical care that the hospital provides is also an important aspect of this request. It is those opportunities that I wanted to take the opportunity to come and ask for your support and encourage you to support the request that Carl Hospital has asked. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll close this public hearing, and the next meeting is the Committee of the Whole of the Urbana City